Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It is your old pal Dominic. This is gonna be a big one. We have a big channel update to talk about, and then there's gonna be some camera discussion after that. If you are new here, there will be links in the description below so you can skip ahead from the intro if you just don't care. For those of you who do want to know, for a long time, this channel has really just kind of been my life as I live it, lots of gaming content, that sort of thing. I have decided to go on a road trip, a 5-year road trip, get an RV, live in the RV, and do a bunch of travel photography and videography. I have done lots of photography and videography, some of it for work, some of it for pleasure. It's just something that I really, really enjoy. Most of it has been centered around events. I myself have been acting since I was 5 years old. I was the lead singer of a rock band for a while. A lot of experience with events, and that just kind of transitioned over to doing videography and photography for events and portraits after that part of my life ended. What I want to do is a documentary style examination of the United States and travel to all the national parks, travel to a lot of small towns, see a lot of small town attractions, small town museums, interview curators at those museums and those attractions to tell stories about the people who live here through photography and videography. To that end, what I need to do is pick a new camera. Why do I need to pick a new camera? Let's start with that. Why do I even need a new camera? First of all, for a long time I had a Nikon D810. Absolutely loved that camera. It's a DSLR camera, 36 megapixels, had 70 to 200, and a 28 to 1.8. They got stolen from me several years ago. I'm not a working photographer or videographer, at least on that scale. I mean, people would pay me to take their photos and stuff sometimes, but it was never a business that I was running for any reason. And the insurance company declined to pay out because they said that it was my fault. Anyway, long story short, I have an A6400, which is a great camera. I want something with a lot of video features, and I want something that's capable of a little bit more rigging than what's possible for an A6400. So this isn't something where I can plug in XLR microphones. I mean, I can, but I'd have to get like a cage, and there's only one mounting screw on the bottom of the camera, so mounting things to the A6400, it just becomes a whole deal. I'm getting a new camera. It would work, but it would just take so much to get it to where I'd want it that it's not really worth it to me. There are other cameras that I can get that just do the things that I want them to do. The autofocus in the A6400 is good. It's not perfect. It has its challenges. Earlier, when I was doing some setup for this, it was very focused on this light instead of my face, especially in lower light situations. And I don't know if you've ever done events, but events are basically low light situations where you don't control the lighting the entire time. It's not really the right camera for that, especially over the next 5 years. There's just better cameras out there that would solve the problems I'm going to face doing a lot of live events and interviews and travel photography. It just makes more sense to get a new camera. And then the other part of it is we're going to be doing a lot of reviews on the channel of gear that I use in my travels around the United States. It doesn't mean necessarily that you should or shouldn't get it, but just what was my experience using it and how easily did it solve the problems that I was trying to overcome. I've also decided that I really want to take 2 cameras on this journey. I want one to be a video-focused documentary camera that's documenting me as I'm doing whatever I'm doing, or would be used in interviews or to, take the kinds of videos that I want to take. While the other camera will be more photos based, so more megapixels, more focused on taking photography, especially landscape photography. I do want to do a lot of landscape. Astrophotography, I want to do that as well. So finding a camera with a large megapixel count that I can do some video on when I want to, but is more focused on taking photos than videos generally. Also, my rescue dog Franklin has decided that right now is the perfect time to chew on his bone. So if you hear some gnawing in the background, Franklin is here and he wants to be involved. He sees me working, so he's doing his job as well. Hopefully it doesn't annoy you or anything, but he's my dog. He's welcome in the videos. So sometimes he's gonna chew on his bone in the background, and That's just how it is. The other consideration I have is about camera pairing. The two cameras that I get, I've decided that I'm just going to get two cameras that have the same mount. There are a couple of different groupings, then there's a Darkhorse Candidate we'll get to last. There's a couple of different pairings that I'm thinking about currently. Let's talk about it. First of all would be the Canon C400 paired with a Canon R5 Mark II. I'm also considering the Canon C80. So every time I say Canon C400, just know that I'm still deciding between those two, but I'm just gonna say Canon C400 to keep it easier for me to enunciate. A lot of stuff to love about the Canon C400. Triple base ISO, internal ND filters, 10 stops with the extension. Very good battery life, great autofocus. They have updated the C400. It now has 1.5 times anamorphic D-squeeze. And I do plan to do anamorphic shooting with whatever video camera I'm using. So you're probably gonna see a theme of cameras that are anamorphic, that have a lot of anamorphic support in them as we're talking about this. The R5 II has an amazing sensor, beautiful sensor, fantastic autofocus. I've seen videos, I think it was Danny Connor Wild, or maybe it was Wild Alaska. I'll put the links in the description. But I think it was Danny's video, she was tracking a leopard and it was like going behind bushes and the camera was still tracking the leopard behind the bushes. It was incredible stuff. And one of the things I really want to do is go to places like Teton, Yellowstone, Denali, big national parks, and do some wildlife photography and videography. So having some sort of animal eye tracking autofocus in the camera, whatever the video camera is, would be very appealing to me. The next pairing I'm thinking about is the Komodo X Z-mount with a Nikon Z8. Kind of like before with Canon, when I say Z8, I'm also considering ZX Mark III. ZX, what? What is, that's not even a thing. Z6 Mark III, but I'm just gonna say Z8 to make it comfortable, but know that Z8 and Z6 Mark III, I'm considering both of them. Some things about the red Komodo X. First of all, has a global shutter. Everybody loves a global shutter. I don't really care about rolling shutter. There's been a lot of talk with the rolling shutter lately, especially because the S1R2 came out, Lumix S1R2. Spoilers, we're gonna talk about that in a second. The rolling shutter, numbers were very high. And of course they were high. It's not a stacked sensor. It's, it's 44 megapixels, I think. So yeah, the rolling shutter was high. Rolling shutter doesn't really bother me because when I'm watching something, that's not really what I'm concerned about. Where rolling shutter actually matters, is in stuff that's very fast action. Birds, you can get distortion in a bird's wings if the global shutter is if the rolling shutter is very high. You can get distortion sometimes with like drummers at a concert. You can see a curve in a drumstick, or when somebody's swinging a golf club or even a baseball bat, you can get some curvature from the distortion because of the rolling shutter. Depends on the angle and stuff. It's not 100% of the time, but those are the types of places where you can get some distortion because of high rolling shutter. I don't plan to be doing a lot of fast action, maybe some wildlife stuff. I would like to get some birds in flight. That's not gonna be the main focus. The main focus is gonna be a lot more, walk around shots or interviews, that sort of thing, where a high rolling shutter number wouldn't really matter to me. I just talked about rolling shutter for way longer than I meant to. Back to the Komodo X. The Komodo X, you don't have to worry about rolling shutter because it's got a global shutter. It also has that red color science. It's just so beautiful. Also, the red Komodo X Z-mount has the new autofocus. Nikon put better autofocus in the Z-mount version of it, and it's very, very good. It's not on the same level as, you're hearing Franklin whine in the background. He wants me to pet him. So he's getting some pets right now. I don't know why he's whining for pets. The new autofocus in the new Komodo X Z-mount, trying to keep these names straight, man. The new autofocus appears to be very good. Not on the same level as the top level Sony and Canon cameras, or even the top level Nikon cameras, but it is very, very good. Perfectly usable. It's as good as it was in my D810 10 years ago, and I used that camera for all kinds of stuff, and it was fine. And I like the Nikon color science. I've always been a fan. I mean, I was a Nikon owner for a long time, paired with the Z8. And the Z8, in my notes when I was going through, all of these different cameras that were out there and deciding what made the list and what didn't, I literally put down the perfect camera next to Z8. There is an asterisk because there's a couple of things it doesn't have. Doesn't have 6K open gate, Nikon Y. It's gonna overheat and stuff, we know, but we want it anyway. And it doesn't have a flip out screen. I really want a camera with a flip out screen. My a6400, it doesn't flip out, but it flips up. I don't know how to, I'm trying to mime this and I can't. Okay, I'm petting you. I'm petting you. I know, you're a very good boy. I know, you deserve all the pets. On the camera that I'm gonna use for my stills, I'm also planning that to sometimes be my walk around kind of vloggy camera, like maybe when I'm out to eat or at certain events or something, like, you know, using it when I don't have both cameras with me. So I want something with a flip forward or a flip out screen, just so that I don't also have to bring a monitor. The one thing that keeps me from saying Nikon Z8 is a perfect camera is it just tilts. It doesn't flip forward or out, however you want to say it. Everything else in the Z8 is fantastic. Great readout speeds, great autofocus, amazing pictures, great battery life, good IBIS. The IBIS in the Z8 is very, very good. So there's a lot to love about the Z8. Combination number 3 would be a Sony FX6 paired with a Sony A7R5. A7R5, yes. I'm trying to keep all of these numbers and letters and dashes and designations. So the Sony FX6 and the A7R5 would be a great pairing. Sony has a pretty good lens ecosystem. I would probably put Nikon's just ahead of Sony's, but they're very close. And both of them are open to third parties, which makes both of them ahead of Canon's. Even though I love Canon glass, I'm not saying anything bad about RF. I know you can, you know, adapt EF and you can adapt PL. Canon has the proprietary PL mount and everything. But, you know, if you're just looking at the lens ecosystem, the cost of lenses, budget lenses, mid-budget lenses, and then high-end lenses, Sony and Nikon are at the top of the game. And it's really hard to decide which one is ahead of the other. They're both fantastic. Putting myself into the Nikon ecosystem would be fine. I mean, I have Sony right now. I only have one lens for my camera. So I'm not, you know, it's not like I've got tons of lenses that I'd have to get rid of and get new lenses since everything got stolen a few years ago. So the FX6, let's talk about the FX6 specifically. FX6, amazing internal ND system. My favorite internal ND system, and arguably the best. It's better than Canon's, it just is. Not only variable, but there's an auto setting so that when you're going from indoor to outdoor, outdoor to indoor, it just automatically changes. You can go all the way down to clear, all the way up to 8 stops, I think it is, 7, 8 stops. Great autofocus, great battery on the FX6. That's really the top documentary camera available right now is the Sony FX6. However, it's getting a little long in the tooth. I suspect that we're gonna see an FX6 Mark II or whatever the successor is to the FX6 soon. The only way to get audio on the camera is the top handle. There's no 3.5 millimeter jack or mini XLR jacks or anything on the body of the FX6. You have to have the top handle. And there has been many people who have complained about the top handle, the screws or bolts, whatever that hold it in. They wear out over time and you have to send it off to Sony and get it, you know, get new threads put into the screw holes, whatever it is that they do. I don't know what it is they do. So that gives me some reservations. Whatever it is that I buy, I plan to use for the next 5 years, right? Sony A7R5, fantastic camera, beautiful, great autofocus, lots of megapixels. Is it 60? I think it's 60 megapixels. Kind of high rolling shutter, you know, because it's a larger sensor, and that's the deal with larger sensors is unless they're fully stacked, you're gonna have a higher readout speed. The other thing about the Sony A7R5 I've seen is some reports of like overheating and stuff in certain conditions, certain situations. Franklin has returned for more pets. The next pairing I'm considering would be the Lumix S1 II with the Lumix S1 R2. I told you we were gonna talk about it. I told you, were you listening? By the way, if you are enjoying the video, could you give me a like and maybe subscribe and stuff? If you want to see more of this content, if you do want to see lots of travel content, lots of stuff about, you know, the national parks, the different gear we're using, the RV I'm going to use, we're going to get to all of this in a second. But I'm just plugging myself real quick. Give us a subscribe, give us a like. There's going to be a lot more to come over the next couple of years. The Lumix S1 II and S1 R2. The S1 II is a fantastic video hybrid camera. tons of open gate, tons of anamorphic support. Told you, I really like anamorphic. Still a respectable readout speed if it's under 15 milliseconds, I believe, which is fine. Again, I don't really care about rolling shutter. I'm more worried about telling a story. So I know if I tell a really good, compelling story, no one's really bothering to look at the rolling shutter. The IBIS, though, in the new Panasonics is legendary. They've got this new cropless mode. To have that as my walk-around camera is very, very enticing to me, that I wouldn't have to crop in a lot and do a lot of stabilization in post. The S1R2, fantastic image quality. They've got the new Cinelite A2. A stands for ARRI, if you didn't know that. Now, they won't admit that it stands for ARRI, but it stands for ARRI. Lumix has also said, and by the end of the year, I think they said, or in the next couple of months, with a paid update, which is a license you have to pay to ARRI, there will be ARRI C-Log 3, I think it's called. I think it's ARRI C-Log 3. ARRI C-Log 3 will be in the S1 II, S1R2, and the S2E, which is also an option that I'm considering. I'm considering all three of them right now. It's just S1 II and S1R2 are the two I'm leaning towards. And that's interesting for me too, because as a solo operator and a solo editor, the less I have to do in post, if I can just find a good picture profile, like I do right now. Like this is the Cine 3 gamut. This is Cine 4. Yeah, Cine 4 with the Cine gamut in Sony. And I'll just take this and I'll just throw it out. I won't throw a LUT. I'll probably do like real light grading on it if needed. But I like to just put things in the camera and take them out. And it's just done. It's just less work in post. That's also why I like the open gate possibilities with the Lumix, because you can very easily go from vertical video to 16:9, 17:9, anamorphic, whatever it is that you're doing with the open gate, because they've got 3.2 and 4.3. They've also got Cinescope. They've also got autofocus up to 96 frames a second, which 96 frames is my favorite slow motion speed. Slow motion frame rate. Speed? Why did I say speed? I don't know what I'm doing. Instead of the S1R2, I did give consideration to Leica SL3, which is even more megapixels. It's like 60 megapixels. But there's some things on the Leica SL3 that I think would kind of annoy me. The autofocus button is also the joystick, and you have to press it in, and I don't know. There's some stuff about it that I have written it off. I've written it off, and I'm now considering the S1R2 instead. One thing I do want to talk about is the Leica lens ecosystem. The L-mount Alliance is fantastic. You can get very budget-focused lenses from Panasonic. Panasonic? What? You can get very budget-focused lenses from Panasonic and very good glass from Leica, plus all the third-party manufacturers that make L-mount lenses. So you got Sigma and Tamron and Samyang, all making great, both budget glass and mid-budget glass, I guess. Very easy to adapt to PL. I mean, they're all easy to adapt to PL. The L-mount Alliance should not be slept on. I slept on it too until the S1R2 came out and I started to really look at L-mounts. There's some really great options. I might do a video on L-mount, on all the L-mount lenses out there, comparing them to the big three, comparing them to Sony, Canon, and Nikon. I think I'm gonna make that video. Comment down below. If you want to see that video, let me know. If you do, I will make that. Our Darkhorse Candidate. Hopefully, I have a horsey sound effect that you just heard. I'm gonna have to find it. I'm gonna have to get a horsey sound effect for when I say, the Darkhorse Candidate. It's something just happening in post. Please, future Dom, make that happen for me. My Darkhorse Candidate is actually the Pixis 12K, and I want to talk about why. Because the Pixis 12K doesn't have internal NDs, has zero autofocus, and well, it has, single shot autofocus. It doesn't have continuous autofocus, I need to be clear. Does not have triple base ISO. I didn't say this when we were talking about the Komodo because I wanted to wait till now, but both the Komodo and the Pixis are not built to be documentary style cameras. That is not their purpose. Their purpose, the Komodo X was built to be a crash cam, right? You can rig it up. There's ways to rig up the Komodo X with microphones and stuff. The Pixis, when you look at it, and from things I've seen in interviews with people from Blackmagic, it's really meant to be on sticks in some sort of controlled environment. It's really meant to have a light, like I've got 3 practicals here. It's not weather sealed in any way, shape, or form. However, that picture, man, Ursa Cine 12K sensor, it's the RGBW, doesn't look like Bayer sensors. You know, you want to talk about open gate, they got all the open gate. They got 17:9 and 16:9 and 241, I want to say. When you are doing these things with very straight lines or, you know, very expansive views, we may do a whole video on this at some point. The way in which the lines are presented in your composition will affect very much how the viewer perceives what it is you're taking a photo of, especially with wide angle, you know, lenses. That's why you have very specific lenses for landscape that kind of straighten things up. They keep lines from being too bendy. And the Pixis has a lot of open gate options that make landscape videography and even some real estate just easier to accomplish. Again, not something we're going to talk about now. I will do a separate video at some point. We'll do some very specific conversations about composition of wide-scale landscapes and stuff. My point is the Pixis 12K would make a lot of that easier, right? Because it's a large format sensor. There's a lot of different ways to crop. I would probably not use 12K in the camera. I'd probably stick with 8K max, 4K usually. When you're open gate on that sensor, it just makes it so much easier to reframe for the right composition. Obviously, you gotta have the right lens, you gotta have the right glass, you gotta have a plan when you go in. It's, you know, you can't really just be like, oh, I showed up today at Denali and I'm gonna take an epic picture of Denali or an epic picture of Devil's Tower or something. You gotta plan beforehand in order to make that happen. However, because the Pixis isn't weather sealed, and because the Pixis doesn't have continuous autofocus, and because it doesn't have internal ND filters, there would be a lot more that would go into making the Pixis as production ready as a C400 or a C80, or even a Komodo, or the FX6. I would say the FX6, C400 and C80 are kind of at the top. They're production ready. You pick them up and you start filming. Komodo X is going to take a little bit more work alongside the S12, and then below that would be Pixis 12K. But the Pixis 12K sensor, man, there's nothing like it. Just nothing like it. I mean, there's the Ursa Cine 12K, which is even more of a studio camera. That thing's like 10 pounds. That is not a travel camera, right? That's not a camera that you want to strap on your back. It's very heavy, it's very big, it's very bulky, and then you've got to really rig it out. I am giving the Pixis 12K a lot of consideration. Probably get the Pixis 12K an L mount and pair it with the S1 Mark II. That is the thinking right now. That is just a really interesting pairing because I could use the Cine A2 for like walk around shots, and then when I am out setting up some sort of landscape view or architecture, videography, shoot of some kind, or interviews, Pixis 12K, perfect for that stuff. Yeah, that's my Darkhorse Candidate. My Darkhorse Candidate. But I haven't decided. Let's talk about what the decision process is going to entail. I'm about to spend far more money than I want to renting a bunch of cameras. I live in a very picturesque place to see sunrises and sunsets over mountains. There's a lot here in Western North Carolina that is very beautiful that we can go point cameras at and take beautiful photos, beautiful videos, and that's what we're gonna do next for the next couple of months. I'm going to try to see if I can get someone to loan me some of these. It's a very big hit to the pocketbook. I will let you, I was looking at, you know, like what the price would be to rent some of this stuff, and I was like, wow, I could easily just spend $1,000 a week renting some of these cameras and gear that I would need in order to make these videos. If I know anybody locally that has them, that will loan me them for the videos. What's coming next is a lot of videos where I'm going to physically have some of these cameras. We're gonna take them out, we're actually gonna do some shoots, see how they perform in the real world, and I'll give you my thoughts, and that's how we're gonna whittle this list down. We're gonna try to do as much of this as free as possible to start out, and then we'll work our way forward from there. Franklin, was there anything else I needed to talk about? And the other thing to keep in mind is that I've got 1 year. So my deadline is July 1st, 2026. As I'm filming this, it's May 18th, 2025. So I've got a little over a year to assemble the gear to get whatever RV it is that I'm choosing, or if I'm doing a motorhome, or however it is that I'm gonna travel. I haven't decided that yet either. We're gonna do some videos on that too. We're actually gonna go see some RVs. We're gonna rent some, actually go out for like, a week or so at a time and do some videos and just see how they work. I've got a year to get all this decided before we have to be on the road and we have to start doing stuff. So over the next year, you're gonna see a lot of these videos where I'm considering this stuff to take it on my trip across the United States. To that end, I have a question for you. If you were me and you were embarking on this journey, what camera would you take with you? Would it be something from the list? Would it be something different? Is there something that I haven't considered that I should be? Do you have experience with any of these cameras? Do you have any advice for me? Please leave it in the comments below. I love reading your comments. I love getting your advice. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the videos that are coming. A year or so from now, we'll be on the road. Franklin says, thanks for watching, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks, everybody.